conversation.
Yeah. But the thing is, if I put it, I will have to hold it like this.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
So it will be like that. Okay. So I'm honored to be here with Lieutenant Commander Brian Gerrish from UK, ex-submarine hunter in the UK Navy.
Yeah, warfare officer. I've got to be precise because I wasn't a submariner, but I was out there looking for submarines.
Yeah, that's what I thought I said. Anyway, Brian, thank you so much. I'm very, very honored to meet you here. And I've been a great admirer of your work ever since I saw your videos exposing, well, basically telling about your heartfelt wish to use the wealth that you work yourself to with a colleague to benefit the young people in the community where you live. And very quickly you went into some very surprising experiences.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, and that went to the common law thing. Common purpose thing.
Common purpose, yeah.
But Brian, please, will you take it from here? Introduce yourself.
What do you want me to tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think it's very important. But
Okay.
whatever you find is in your heart.
Okay, well, the story started in 1993 when I left the Navy. And I started to work in Plymouth, and I set up a little business with another man. And what I always say is eventually we started to get a bit comfortable. We were making money, not a huge amount, but we were happy. And then we got interested in helping some of the younger people in the city, particularly the youngsters who were around the old naval dockyard. A lot of them didn't have jobs, their parents hadn't had jobs for a long time. And we came up with the idea of trying to get the youngsters doing something practical, working with their hands. And we started to look at the idea of getting them involved in making and repairing wooden boats. And we found part of the site in the old dockyard, and we eventually had a small workshop set up. And then just as we were ready to go to get more youngsters involved, we started to basically be threatened. And this was very strange for me because I'd never experienced anything like it. And it started really with the people in the local authorities, like the city council, but also we had two development agencies. These are government organisations. They stopped talking to us. First of all, people stopped talking to us, and then we started to gently be threatened. We'd get odd phone calls, or people would make odd remarks suggesting that the project shouldn't go ahead. It got worse until I was getting emails talking about murdering me or setting fire to my house or putting a hatchet in my head. And used hypodermic needles in flower baskets outside my house, and eventually they started to sort of threaten my family. And this was extraordinary because I didn't really understand at that stage what I'd done. But when I began to investigate the people, it led me to this organisation, Common Purpose. And then I discovered that in Plymouth, a lot of people were involved with a political organisation. It's set up as a charity, but it works in a political way. And perhaps it was coincidence, I don't think so. Many of the people I believe were implicated in the threats were also involved in Common Purpose. And then as we began to investigate it, we began to get contacted by other people across England and also Scotland as well, who told us that they were also experiencing similar problems. And then we also discovered that very often, if you found Common Purpose graduates in organisations, you would find fraud and corruption and lies and bullying. And then we realised that something very sinister was happening in the country.
Thank you. Do you have any indications that this is not only a British thing, but it is also more international?
Well, it's definitely international, because if you go and look at Common Purpose's website, they'll talk about Common Purpose acting overseas. One of the ones we were fascinated about was that, of course, Libya has been wrecked with the help of Britain and the European Union and the Americans, and who's one of the first organisations to go in supposedly to train the new government of Libya, but Common Purpose. And about 2 weeks ago I was over in the Czech Republic because well, I was invited to talk over there. But 2 days before I went, somebody sent me an email saying, Brian, are you aware that Common Purpose is now operating in the Czech Republic and Hungary and Slovakia and some of the other Eastern European countries? So I was able to bring that into my talk. But when I gave the talk to the audience in Prague, and I talked about what was happening in Britain, secret courts, people being arrested secretly, people being put in psychiatric units if they've challenged the government. All this is reality of Britain. And then I talked about Common Purpose and the way Common Purpose had worked in order to get the recent Leveson inquiry, where it's quite clear that the government in Britain was trying to take control of the state. The government was trying to take control of the media and press. Common Purpose was a key factor setting up that Leveson inquiry. So I'm talking to an audience in Prague, and then they start to shout out that what I'm describing is communism. And this was quite amazing. People there who lived under the communist regime, and they said, Brian, everything you are describing is what we saw under communism, but obviously it's got a new face. And of course the new face is that we've got basically the communist, the Marxist ideology, but it's now combined with capitalism. So probably the correct term is communitarianism. The idea of Common Purpose is if they can get their people, their leaders, into key positions of power and influence, they can actually control politics, they can control society, and that's what they're doing.
Would I be wrong to connect that to the New World Order?
Well, not in my opinion, because if you just follow the phrase Common Purpose, you will start to see documents. Many of them, if we stay with Europe, are connected to the Organisation for Security and Cooperation in Europe, OSCE. They've got key documents which are all talking about removing nation states and creating one super state of Europe. And one of their key documents is actually coloured pink. The cover is pink, and it simply has the words Common Purpose on it. We've also heard Brown, former British Prime Minister, talking about the Common Purpose, describing the movement towards a one-world system of government. And of course Obama has also used the phrase Common Purpose in that context as well. So I believe there's a direct link. And the other thing maybe we should say, which probably is particularly relevant to today, since we're at the Bilderberg conference, is the fact that Common Purpose is overwhelmingly funded by very large international banks. They were involved with Lehman Brothers, of course highly corrupt, and eventually went bankrupt, but Common Purpose boasts of working with Goldman Sachs, with Deutsche Bank, with UBS, Barclays, and many other major banks in this international banking cartel. So this is the key thing. Common Purpose claims it's a charity. But where do they get money from? International banking cartels and public money via the government.
Is there anything that you would like to round up? Because I have another question for you on another subject of what you're looking at.
What I'd say to people is that if you want to stop what's happening, if you sense in your own country that things are breaking down, life isn't as it was, people haven't got jobs, maybe transport doesn't work. Many countries, Spain for example, young people just don't have jobs. But this breakdown is not accidental, it's deliberate, it's being engineered, and clearly Common Purpose type agenda is part of it. The solution is exposure. You can't fight what you can't see, but if you expose what's happening and who's doing it, you've gone 85% of the way to fighting it. And the other key thing is that these people want to divide and rule. They want everybody at each other's throats, whether it's different countries or colours or religions. We've got to stick together. So while we're fighting this, it's very, very important that you forget old divisions and we have people working together to help each other. I think that's it.
Thank you. I just want to make it clear that you are, as far as I know, the founder of the UK column, yes? At least a very important part of it.
Yes, but I've had a lot of help by other people, and I could have only done what I did by other people and volunteers helping me. And I'd like to especially mention Mike Robinson, who actually does all of the main editing of the paper at the moment, and many of the articles, particularly on money and the economy. And Carol and Kate, who are our two volunteer grandmothers, who've achieved so much. So if you're somebody out there who thinks that you can't do anything, it's amazing what you can do once you decide to do it.
Thank you. Lieutenant Commander Gerrish, I have one more question, please.
Yeah.
Another part of the incredibly important work that you're doing, that I've seen you do together with John Harris. Will you please talk about the mainly unknown at least dual law system that we are living under and the implications?
Well, this is a very important subject. John Harris contacted me many years ago. Well, I think it was a Saturday, and he said he'd watched one of the talks, and he wanted to come and see me, and I was very happy for him to do that. And John arrived, very tall, slim man, a carpenter, and the next minute he was talking to me about extraordinary things to do with the law, and we started to work together and communicate. And of course it was John Harris who was the man who first started to get people to see that there was a separate society being run through the legal system in the UK, using its own languages, but also running courts which were totally unlawful with regard to our own common law. And this was the start of people beginning to understand that our common law, basically trial by jury and innocent until proven guilty, was being overridden by statute law, which is simply business being brought into the court. And I still say that John Harris was a major player in beginning to see people, in allowing people, to see through the scam of what was happening in the courts. And that's now moved on, so that we've even got legally trained people who are confirming that our old constitution and common law is being totally subverted in order to simply be able to take people into secret courts. So John did a brilliant job.
Will you please talk about the birth certificate and who's owning who?
Right, well, I'll say a few words on it, but I'm going to say that I don't claim to be an expert in this area, because we've focused on some different things. But the key business is that people think they're being born free. But the moment their birth is registered, what's actually happening is the child is being made the property of the state, and the state simply looks on the child as a human resource and is calculating how much money they can make off each individual. So the birth certificate, as I understand it, is the first document where the state is actually showing you're not born free, you're actually being put into a system of slavery. But of course we don't understand the system initially, so we're not aware of this.
Thank you. Is there anything else you would like to add?
Well, I'll just add that we're here at the Bilderberg conference in Watford, England, and probably been about 200-250 people here yesterday, and I suspect there's going to be more today. People from all over the world. We've got Americans, we've got British, we've got Danes, we've got people from Sweden, a whole mix of people, and they all realise that if we're going to stop this very dangerous one world government system, we've got to have people working together. We've got to stand together.
Lieutenant Commander Gerrish, it's been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Okay. Thank you.